Who do the American people trust when it comes to climate change? Do they trust the president, perhaps, the one actually setting the policies? Perhaps Congress, also influencing America's response to climate change? The media, Fox News even. The results are positive and negative at the same time. So overall, this is sort of the headline version of this. While 17% of people picked Fox News as a reliable source on climate change, only 11% selected President Obama, with a slightly higher 13% choosing the U.S. government. So 17% for Fox News, higher than the government, which is higher than President Obama. Now, my immediate response to that is, well, I suppose it makes sense that, that they would choose, the government, when they see the government, they talk about the legislature, they're thinking of it as being conservative. I don't necessarily trust them. So the fact that most people don't trust them, I don't see as a bad thing. Only 11%, which, that by the way, for the president means that the vast majority of Democrats don't trust Obama when it comes to climate change. And I wonder, should they? It seems like he's made some good moves on climate change when it comes to emissions from cars and things of that sort, trying to get the treaty with China and a number of other countries.
I wouldn't trust politicians on climate change. I would trust scientists.
So that was sort of the bad news, the fact that people trust Fox News so much more than President Obama. But the good news is that they trust certain groups more than both of those combined, which is good. The most reliable source was non-government scientists and educators at 45%. That's not even a majority, by the way.
Well,
God damn. Followed by environmental groups at 33% and mainstream media, quote unquote, including U.S. newspapers, broadcasters, CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, the Associated Press, and the New York Times at 22%. So even scientists can't break 50% with the American people.
Neil deGrasse Tyson only registered 22%. 22%.
Yeah.
I bet he's bullshitting about science. He got into science so he could bullshit about it. That's why scientists get into
to make
science.
Up stuff about the
the people who you can really trust on this, talk show hosts and Republican politicians. I don't trust. So that's a good sign. But still, what this really shows you, John, is the effectiveness of the disinformation campaign from the fossil fuel industry. This is exactly what happened with cigarettes, or very close to what happened with cigarettes. They're just trying to, the science isn't in. We still have to study. We don't know. And these guys are just saying what their funders want them to say. Yeah, I know. So, so that's disconcerting that they have come this far, and especially over something that's so important. How you can get people to distrust science? It's science.
Yeah.
It's peer-reviewed. It's
not just a study.
Right.
Like mountains of studies and investigations of trends in both the short term and in the long term. You can go back 50 years, you can go back hundreds of thousands of years, and they can find evidence that should lead you to believe that something is happening, something that does not occur cyclically in nature commonly.
I wish they would have asked, do you trust the military on global because they are already making plans.
Yeah.
Because they know that global warming is a threat to our security. So they're already putting that into their plans. They know global warming is a huge threat. They've said so.
I think liberals are twisting their arms, I think.
Yeah. That's what these guys get in the military. They're just there.
So the thing that sort of confuses me, and I know that this study, the results of the study are going to be spread all over the place, and a lot of people are going to say, that tend to support Democrats no matter what. They're going to say, well, look, 11% for President Obama is way, way, way too low. I mean, as I even said, that means that most Democrats don't believe that you can trust him. The U.S. government, which does have still quite a few Democrats in it, not as many as it did a few years ago, but at the same time, like as you said, like President Obama, he raised CAF standards, so now cars are more efficient than they were when he became president, and they will be more efficient in a few years. And he's done some things to spur investment in alternative sources of energy and things like that. I mean, he's fighting against Keystone XL, but even he, who seems to believe that it's true and seems to think that the government has some responsibility to try to change it, he could be doing far more. He certainly doesn't seem to be really leading on this. I mean, blocking Keystone's one thing. Putting into effect billions and billions and billions in additional funding to get renewable energy to a point where it's cost effective against traditional fossil fuels, that's another thing, and I don't see him really doing that recently. And so really, can you blame even progressives for not trusting either side when it comes to this sort of thing?
Well, I don't trust Barack Obama when it comes to climate change because he's a politician, and when in any given situation, he might fudge a little to make his point. Just like he fudged when or some people say blatantly lied when he said, if you like your policy, you can keep it. What he should have said, well, if you like your policy, you can keep it, unless it's really shitty and we're going to give you a better one.
Yeah.
He didn't say that part. So that's...
It's funny that people are hitting him for that.
Yeah.
You can keep it unless it's so horrible
unless it's so
illegal now.
shitty, it's illegal.
Yeah.
But so maybe that's why people have a hard time with... Plus, he's kind of... It's good to see him, what he has said about the XL pipeline, but he still is kind of wishy-washy. He's not as strong as you'd like him to be on it, that's for sure.
That's true.
And he said the right... So that's why I don't trust him. I'd like to... It's sad that people... 45%. I mean, they've...
For scientists.
For scientists. So what do you... I mean, you have to have confidence in certain institutions in your society in order for your society to function.
Yeah.
And once people lose confidence in your institutions and your society starts to break down, which is what you see happen. I mean, that's why we can't get... That's why Florida's going to be underwater in 50 years.
You're talking about confidence in the church, right?
Yes, I'm talking about
Exactly.
confidence in the
It's
church.
moral fabric falling apart.
And how many... And Johnny, you can't blame a lot of those people for not believing President Obama. He is black.
That's true. I'm fairly sure. I wouldn't trust him on his racial background, but I do, yeah. Also, let's remember, 17% say Fox, which means lots of conservatives don't trust Fox. But the takeaway from this for me is that while most people don't seem to trust pretty much anyone when it comes to news about climate change, including scientists, as weird as that is, including Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is probably one of the best known science educators out there right now, that doesn't mean that they don't think that it's something that's happening or something that should be dealt with. They just don't know who to trust about it. And what I'll refer to prove that is 57% of Republicans and 88% of Democrats are somewhat or very concerned about climate change. Now, that is a different thing than are concerned about climate change and think that we're doing it and think we can stop it. That's true. That's a couple steps removed. But it means that there's some fertile ground to talk to these people on. And there's a lot of political issues where, from our point of view for the Republicans, there's not 50%, 57% even chance of discussing it. And so this is a failure on so many different levels when it comes to the media and politicians. I'm not going to blame the scientists. They've been attacked and they don't have the sort of pulpit that the media does. But I think that people are waiting to be taught what's going on when it comes to climate change. They just don't know who to trust on it right now.